Guys. All right, welcome. This is Ron with the Zamir Group, Keller Williams Town Life out of the Tenafly Market Center. People in, thank you for joining us. We are going to discuss a fun topic, multiple offers. So in today's market, it's what you call a very strong seller's market. I would even expand on that. I would call it a very strong, volatile, difficult seller's market with many obstacles. One of them being is that there's a lot of competition due to a very severe supply and demand issue. And we do come across these situations fairly often, so it's a very, I guess, on-point topic to be discussing. It's always a benefit to us as agents if we can communicate how to strengthen an offer. So the ability to strengthen an offer in multiple offer situations is always a great advantage of value, of benefit to our buyers and to us. Now, of course, when we come across these situations, can we communicate how to strengthen an offer if we don't know how to strengthen an offer? And that's exactly why we have these discussions today. So when those scenarios present themselves, you are ready for it. You're prepared for it. You're going to hit it out of the park, and you're going to prepare them at a much higher level than your traditional agent, since you have the tools to do so. So if you guys have any questions at any point in time, you let me know. Just stop me, or else I'll just keep doing my thing. I'll keep talking. But in today's market, yes, we are in a very strong seller's market. And wherever you go, regardless of the town, regardless of the price point, regardless of the product, we are seeing a very competitive environment with multiple offers. So we come across these situations, and then we say, okay, now what? Right? So if I'm the buyer and I tell you, now what? Do you necessarily know what to do at that very moment in time? Do you know the discussion to have, the words to use? Well, we're going to talk about that today. So let me get my PowerPoint up, and we'll get this party started. Here we go. Share screen. Let's get right into it. Again, I'm the buyer specialist for the Zamir Group. Top team in the entire MLS 5 years in a row. So that gives me the ability to share that with you, because I see this on a daily basis. Can we start this? There we go. Press. There we go. All right, cool. All right. Let's talk about strength of offer. The name of the game is strength of offer, not highest offer, strength of offer. It's not the highest offer that's going to obtain in these type situations. It is going to be the strongest offer. So we're going to spend a lot of time on this particular slide, a little bit on the next slide. We're going to talk about it in detail. We can dig a little deeper on each particular topic, but you have to let me know that you want to discuss it a little bit in more detail on a particular one. Just again, you have to unmute yourself and just stop me, else I'll just keep talking. I gotta let these people in. All right. Let's talk about how to strengthen our offers. Okay, there's multiple offer situations. Let's just say the agent tells you, hey, listen, I got 10 offers. We're well above asking. Highest and best deadline is on Monday, whatever. Doesn't matter the scenario. What happens? How do we have that conversation? How do we strengthen our offer? How do we increase the likelihood we obtain in those type of situations for our buyers, so they don't have to keep looking and keep losing out on these things? Well, at the very top, it says relationship with agent. Now, I'm going to also put a slash there and say connect with agent. I'm going to give you guys a tip right here, right now. If you don't get anything else out of this lecture and you get only this one thing, it was well worth it. If you want to be better than 90% of the agents out there, all you have to do is one thing. Pick up the phone. That's all you need to do to be better than 90% of the agents. Now, what makes me say that? What makes me say that? What do you guys think?
Because others don't do it.
That's right. Others don't do it. See, we're very active on the listing side. We have a lot of multiple offer situations. And I will share with you that the ratio of offers to agents that actually pick up the phone and ask questions is probably about 1 out of 10. That's why I say 90% of, you want to be better than 90% of the agents, just pick up the phone and ask some questions. Is that going to be helpful to your client if you ask questions, if you actually obtain answers, and you're able to communicate information back to your buyer? Is that of value to them? Is that promoting their best interest? Yes. Is not calling the listing agent promoting their best interest? Let's reverse the question. I
No.
would say that no, it is not promoting their best interest. There is a room for improvement for those buyers agents that do not do it. That's my personal opinion. So, okay, so we connected with the agent. We asked the questions. What kind of questions are we asking?
Are there any offers?
Yeah, pretty simple question, right? And some agents, I'll tell you, they'll share with you the exact numbers. Some agents won't share with you anything. It depends on personality that you're dealing with, of course. Depends on the relationship you have with that agent. And what other questions are we asking?
What are the terms? What's important for them?
Other than price, what is important to your seller? And again, some agents will answer, some agents won't. But if you don't ask, you don't get. And if they say, okay, this is important, this is important, this is important, is that helpful to our clients? Do they now know what they need to
Yes.
focus on to improve their offers, to strengthen their offers, to increase the likelihood they obtain? Yes, yes, and yes. Okay, so connecting with the agent, very simple. Just pick up the phone, ask some questions. Obviously, we can ask them, other than what's important to. Also, very simple question. We're going to get to it soon. It's about terms. When is your seller's preferred closing date? Don't think that by putting 30-day close, you can close quickly, that you're actually strengthening your offer. It might weaken your offer. We're going to talk about that in a second. What other questions can we ask? Where do I need to be in order to obtain? Are there any offers above X? There's all kinds of questions we could be asking. I'm trying to multitask with these people at the same time. So relationship with agent goes a long way. Now, let's just say, theoretically, we have a history with that agent. Let's just say you are Mr. or Miss Listing Agent, and we've done business together. Okay, how is that helpful? Well, I'll give you a scenario. Let's just say, theoretically, there are 8 offers on the table. Top 2 offers, they're very close to each other. One offer is mine. We've worked together. You know my attorneys, you know my lenders, you know I prepare my buyers really, really well. I do what I say what I do. There's no surprises. And more importantly than anything else, I'm getting this to the closing table. And then there's the other comparable offer. You don't know the agent. You don't know the lender. Which offer are you going with? Which offer are you recommending that your seller choose to go with? That was a rhetorical question. Yes, you're choosing to go with me because we have what's called history. So it's really, really important that you keep good relationships with your colleagues, with your peers. Why? Because you never know when you might need their help, right? And so it goes a long way when you have good relationships in this line of work we call real estate. It might be advantageous to your client. Now, on the other hand, if you have a sour relationship with somebody, maybe transaction went sideways and it didn't work out really well, and let's just say you weren't on the best terms, is that going to benefit your clients or be a disadvantage? It might actually be a disadvantage to you and your clients. So keep good relationships, be on good terms, get to know the other agents. Obviously, as we're becoming experts, we are getting to know the other agents. As we're submitting offers, we're getting to know the other agents. As we're doing deals, as we're getting back to the office, we're getting to know the other agents. So get in relationship with your peers. It goes a long way. It's at the very top for a reason. It helps us convert at a higher level. It helps us obtain more information to convert at a higher level. So let's focus on that. Any questions about that so far? Anything I said so far or anything unrelated? Awesome. You let me know. Just unmute yourself at any point in time. Okay. Expertise. How does expertise help us obtain in multiple offer situations? How can it possibly help us obtain in multiple offer situations? Any thoughts on that?
When you know what's sold recently and comparable properties, you can give them more advice, more information.
Yes, of course. It provides us the ability to provide them expert advice. Now let's just focus on one word: recently. How recent?
1 week.
Well, now, what makes that important? Well, why do we say only 1 week? Why? Because the market's changing on a weekly basis. You can't be looking at homes that sold a month ago, 3 months ago, 6 months ago. Those sales are meaningless at this point. So being an expert in your local market will be advantageous. will be of value to your clients, because now you can advise them at a much higher level than your traditional agent who doesn't know squat, right? Because the majority of agents, they don't go do what? They don't do any research whatsoever. They don't even research schools. They don't research transportation. They don't research population sizes, active homes. They don't research anything. Forget researching, what's sold recently or what should something sell for. So how do we become an expert is the follow-up question. How do you become an expert in any particular market?
Following the market, maybe calling the agent, asking information in case you don't have buyers, but just so you can be prepared.
Yeah. And what else? Before
previewing homes.
That's I was
researching. I will
right.
say researching.
That's right. So before the opportunity even presents itself, we are doing something. We are doing what you call footwork, right? We're going to preview homes. We are seeing homes. It is part of our job description to know the inventory. So when we go see the inventory and all of a sudden an opportunity presents itself that, we know this neighborhood, we've seen all 10 homes, all 29 homes, all 37 homes, whatever amount of homes are in this particular niche, you are now an expert in that inventory. Now, of course, if you've been following it for weeks, months, even years, how does that benefit our clients? Well, we're more of an expert than the next agent, and that is of value. We always talk about value proposition, and in today's market, it's all about the amount of value an agent can provide their client, because because what does it cost? What does it cost to hire a buyer's agent in New Jersey? $0. That's what it costs. If it costs $0 to hire a buyer's agent, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer, would you like to hire an expert or an amateur? You see, the one that provides them the most value is the one that's going to get hired. That's why expertise is of value. Now, you don't have to say I'm an expert. At some point, the way that you talk will communicate I'm an expert even without saying it. You just have to go see some homes, and you have to see some homes consistently over time. So just focus, be strategic about a particular area, go see those homes, do your lead gen activity in those areas. All of a sudden, opportunities for sellers and buyers will present themselves, and you will create what's called a niche. Expertise goes a long way when it talks about conversion, because you could be in a situation where you just have no idea what's going on. And by the way, if you have no idea what's going on, your buyers might be overpaying. They might be $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 above the next offer. Right? Is that really promoting your buyer's best interest? No, they may not know that. You may not know that even at that very moment. Yet, if you are an expert and you have relationships with agents, that's not going to happen, or that's less likely to happen. So it's really, really important that we work on ourselves before we even have the opportunity to be involved in these situations. So become an expert, do the footwork. It will go a long way for you and your clients. Concessions. Now, when we say concessions, we don't mean the seller conceding anything. We mean the buyer giving stuff up, conceding something. What are they giving up? What is the first thing to go out the door, out the window? What is the first thing a buyer gives up in order to strengthen an offer in a multiple offer situation? Talk to me.
Leverage.
Oh, what kind of leverage are they giving it up? They don't have leverage in these situations, obviously. So what is the first thing that they're giving up because they have no leverage? I'll give you a hint. Buyer to purchase. In what condition?
As is.
There you go. That's usually the first thing that goes out the window. Yeah, buyer to purchase in as is condition. I always like to add with the exception of environmental, structural, and health issues, and you can add mechanical if you really want to in there. And do our buyers know what that means, by the way? Do our buyers know what it means?
Yes, if you educate them.
If we educate them, the question is, do they know what it means before we educate them?
No.
Yeah. So, okay. So are they more likely or less likely to be agreeable to it if they don't know?
Less likely.
Yeah, of course. So what is it? So what's our job?
Is to persuade
Buyer's
them
consultation.
or, get them knowledgeable of that, particular topic.
Yeah, it's our job to educate them. It's our job to provide them the information so they feel a lot more comfortable, a lot more confident to make that decision. They don't know what all this means. We have to provide them the information so that they do know. so that they could be agreeable to it. So yeah, if you say, hey, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, let's communicate to the other party that we're going to buy the property and as is condition with the exception of. I'm like, a lot of buyers will be like, whoa, wait a minute. I don't know about that. I want to have the ability to come back and request that they address any concerns. Well, let me ask you guys a question. You as agents, do they still have the ability to come back and request any concerns? Yeah, they still have that ability. We're not waiving the inspection contingency. This is where agents get confused sometimes. So there's a difference between waiving your inspection contingency, which is one of probably the best protection a buyer has, to saying I'm buying as is. Those are two different things. I'm not waiving my inspection contingency. I'm saying I'm buying as is with the exception of. That still gives me the ability to come back and request from seller to address any major items. It's basically communicating to the seller, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, that we're not going to give them a hard time. We're not going to request them to fix any small stuff, only in major stuff. We're not going to be nickel and diming them throughout the inspection contingency. Does that sound fair? Does that make sense? So you have to communicate to the buyers what that means, because they think I don't have the ability to come back and request that the seller address anything. And that's just not true. You still have that ability, you still have that protection. What else? What else are the buyers conceding, giving up right now to strengthen offers? What are they waiving?
The appraisal contingency.
That's usually the next thing. You are good. Okay, so yes, in today's market, especially when you get 17 offers and 22 offers and 40 offers, believe it or not, it is very, very likely that the one that will obtain is not the highest. It's the one that waives the appraisal contingency. So what that means is you can be the highest, but if you're not waiving your appraisal contingency or at least capping it, you're not obtaining this property. Because if there's a concern with the seller or a concern with the listing agent in the back of their head even, that this is going to be an appraisal issue based on this price, I put it at $499 and we're at $610. You could be that $610 offer, but you're not getting it accepted because that $595 offer waived the appraisal contingency. It's not about highest offer; it's about strongest offer. Okay, that is the name of the game. I heard somebody take off mute. Any questions? Anything you want to add to that? Well, if you do have a question, just unmute yourself and ask the question, or if you want to add anything, feel free. I like to consider these sessions more of mastermind sessions, where a lot of agents with a lot of different experiences. Please feel free to add yours. So, yeah, so the two big ones are definitely the saying buyer percentages and the appraisal. Now, a lot of buyers and buyers agents, they don't necessarily know that they can limit the appraisal amount. So you don't have to appraise. Now, some buyers may not feel comfortable waiving, or maybe they may not have the ability to waive it completely, the appraisal contingency, which, by the way, doesn't mean you're not conducting an appraisal. You still have to conduct the appraisal. By waiving your appraisal contingency, it simply says, if there's an appraisal issue, I'm still moving forward, Mr. and Mrs. Seller. That's what it means, right? Now, if you can't waive it completely, or you don't want to waive it completely, we can also cap it. We can also put a max on it. Right, so instead of, let's just say the sales price is 600, I could say buyer to waive appraisal contingency up to 580, because maybe that was the list price. Right, so you can play with it if you don't have to waive it completely. Yet limiting it is still a stronger offer than not doing it at all. So when we're talking about strength of offer, that particular tool, it does help even if you're not waiving it completely. Right, and this isn't really. We should be educating them as to what that means. They don't know what that means. Again, we're going to go back to that same discussion we had before. Does a buyer know the consequences, worst case scenarios, best case scenarios of waiving the appraisal contingency? That's where we come in. We have to educate them. And if we don't know that, then we should seek advice for that too, right? So, what else? What else are buyers giving up? And I've seen some creative stuff lately. What are they conceding?
Commission.
Yeah, I've seen some buyers agents do some crazy stuff. I've seen that before. What else can you guys think of that that buyers are giving up? I'll pay for this. I'll pay for that. Right. So there's all kinds of things that they do. It's about strengthening the offer. When it comes to terms, there's a very simple term. It's called the closing date. You know, I mentioned it before. Just because you put a 30-day close does not mean that you have a strong offer. Many sellers don't know where they're going. If they don't know where they're going and they need a 90, 100-day, 120-day closing, that weakens your offer, right? So is your buyer flexible to the seller's preferred closing date? And here's the interesting part. Any agent that I've ever called and I've asked them this question, when is your seller's preferred closing date? I've never had an agent say none of your business. They always tell you the seller's preferred. Oh, they don't care. Oh, you know what? They really would like to close June 30th, or they really, you know, they need a longer closing. They don't know where they're going yet. They tell them the whole life. They tell you the whole life story. That they need to sell this house in order to buy. Ding, ding, ding. Okay, we're going to get to that in a second, to a creative way you can strengthen an offer when you hear those words being said by a listing agent. Anything else? Any other terms other than closing date that we can think of to strengthen an offer? We'll get to a few other ones. I mean, I created individual categories for them, so we'll get to it. Escalation clause. We're going to get to the escalation clause also on the next slide. Just know it's a seldomly used tool. It is very rarely used in real estate. Right now, with all the craziness, we are seeing it more often. Just know there are situations you don't want to be using them either. Many sellers or listing agents are anti-escalation clauses. Know, you know, if you should be using them or not. Also, of course, if you know that you're up against cash offers, honestly, being $1,000 or $2,000 above a cash offer, that's not necessarily going to help you if your buyer is going in with a mortgage. So just know the situation and you know when to use it and when not to use it. Asking permission or if it's okay to use it is a safe way to go about it. The typical or the best tool used to squeeze top dollar out of a buyer and a buyer's agent that a listing agent and a seller can use is called highest and best. All right. So we see it very, very often. Highest and best due Wednesday at 12 o'clock, Thursday at 5 o'clock, whatever. They'll post it to the MLS. They may or may not post it to the MLS, actually. Sometimes they send you an email if you've already submitted an offer. Yet, this is what you need to be wary of. There are situations where they don't have a highest and best. There are situations where it's a rare occasion, of course. It happens probably, you know, like 10% of the time, but it still happens. A seller, right, selects one of the offers, doesn't do a highest and best, moves forward, and it's not yours. Now, what we don't want happening is that we communicated to our buyers as a strategy, Mr. or Mrs. Buyer. Let's do this. Let's just submit asking, and then when they do the deadline, we'll update our offer and we'll submit our best offer right before the deadline. And of course, the seller chose an offer without doing a highest and best. It wasn't yours. Congratulations, you are this close to being fired, right? Because you didn't guide them well. Well, there's a simple way to discover if a listing or listing agent or a seller, how they're going to proceed, if they're going to do a highest and best or not, and that's to ask. Do you anticipate doing a highest and best or not? They know. The listing agents know. So just all you have to do is ask the question. Many agents just don't ask any questions. And that's where they get into trouble. That's where surprises happen. So we don't want surprises to happen. We want to improve the likelihood that we do get this deal for our clients and get them to the outcome, the achievement, the accomplishment they're looking for, which is to be in this home, of course, that they're going to enjoy. But we can't get there if we don't do what we need to be doing, right? So letters to sellers. I'm at Nabila. Yes, I see your hand raised, but you don't have to raise your hands. Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, sorry. So after passing the highest and best time, like let's say 7 p.m., and you find out that you've been outbid, if you submit an offer, then the agent still has to submit it present it to the seller, right?
Correct. Yeah. Any offer that's submitted needs to be presented to the seller. Yeah. Even if it's after a deadline, even if it's under contract.
So is that a good strategy? Or, I mean, would it annoy the
It would
listing
definitely
agent?
annoy a listing agent that in this business, you can say there is a lack of integrity, right? So the deadlines are really there. It's a tool just to keep everybody on the same level of integrity, right? So if somebody's playing games, and they come in after the fact, it actually weakens your position. And honestly, on many agents, they like to do what they say what they do. And if they've already accepted an offer, even if your offer is a little bit higher, they'll go back to their sellers and they'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Seller, I understand this one's $5,000 more, yet, you know, we're gonna try to maintain our level of integrity, do what we say we do, and move forward with this. This particular person who came in after the fact, they're likely going to play games later too, just like they're playing games now, right? Behavior patterns don't necessarily change overnight. So I would recommend staying with this. So they a lot of times they'll stay with the offer they accepted. Now, what if it's $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 more? Now all of a sudden you're in a predicament, right? Because it's a lot of money to be leaving on a table. Well, there's still a good way to stay in integrity from a listing agent and a seller standpoint, and that's simply to be fair. What's the fair thing? If you were in that position, if you were the buyer's agent, you had an accepted offer, and then another offer came in, what would you like to see happen? If it was me, I'd like the opportunity to compete. I'd like the ability for the first of all, the listing agent to come back and say, listen, this is the scenario. Would you like to come up and move forward or not? I'd like that opportunity. So that's a good way to stay in integrity.
Okay. But if you come out with a strong offer, your first offer was really strong and you still got outbid, it would be okay to, I mean, would it really hurt your
You're allowed to
integrity
do it. Yeah, you're allowed to do it. Yeah, but like I said, many would, you know, they
It's
frown
unfavorable.
upon it, or they look at it as somebody just playing games and not being serious, and they'll cause issues later on too.
Okay.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, we're going to talk about it later on too. When it comes to the advice that we provide our clients, it's really important that they trust us. Now, in the beginning, maybe they don't know, or maybe we haven't explained that well with the environment that they're working in, right? What's really going on? Maybe they didn't understand, or maybe we didn't communicate it that well. And you know, this is a good learning lesson. Now, all of a sudden, if they didn't believe us before, they will now. They're a better buyer for it. And we're going to talk about that later on the last line. So we said highest and best is the best one. Make sure you ask. Letter to sellers. I'll tell you, there's a lot of discussion around letter to sellers, buyer letters. Yeah, there are some situations where you don't want to be submitting them, especially when a listing agent or a seller says no letters. Fine, then you don't submit the letter. Yet, and you want to be careful what's in the letters. Obviously, you don't want to open it up for any type of discrimination whatsoever. So there, you can write a pretty generic letter and still submit the letter. I am an advocate of letters only because let's just ask the question: can a letter strengthen your offer? And the answer is yes, it definitely can. So I submitted an offer on a property yesterday. This is yesterday. I submitted an offer on a property, and I asked, and we lost. And I asked the agent. I asked her, what could we have done to strengthen our offer? And they said, well, let me just see. You should have everything ready for you. I'm trying to mute everybody. Sorry, guys.
He should be right in the front, okay? Thanks so much. Have a good evening.
All right, that's good. So where was I? I lost my train of thought. Okay, the letters to sellers. So I spoke to the agent yesterday. So I told her, well, other than price, they wrote a really strong letter that created a connection between seller and buyer, and it was difficult for her not to say no to that particular client. So just by having a conversation last night with an agent around this particular topic, I'm telling you, they do strengthen offers. Just be careful with it, okay? Lenders, how can a lender possibly strengthen an offer? Put yourself in a listing agent in a seller's shoes. How does a lender strengthen an offer? Let's just say it's one of our recommended lenders: Atlantic Home Loans, Bond Street Mortgage, NJ Lenders, or one of the local ones that are very well known, and that we know that they do what they say what they do, and they say you're good to go, you are good to go. Compared to somebody who with a very similar offer, but out of ABC Mortgage out of Missouri, which is one offer stronger than the other? And the answer is yes, right? So the lender can make an impact. How else can the lender make an impact on the situation?
Be great.
Hi guys. I don't know how to mute everybody.
I assume by now that he found
So
you.
I'm going to ask you guys, whoever is not muted, to mute yourself, please.
Carries on call, and also
Sorry,
the
guys.
town. Thank you so much, and have a great
How
evening.
Sorry, guys, I don't know how to mute people. So, okay, let's keep going. So the lender, something else that they can do is, one, they can write their own letters, right? They can call the listing agents. They can say, hey, listen, Mr. or Miss Listing Agent, I've collected all the financial documents. There's nothing else that I need. They are good to go. This is a solid buyer. What else can they do? They can actually get your buyers through underwriting, right? So a lot of lenders, they will get your buyers through underwriting with a TBD property. So what that means is I can now approach a listing agent and say, hey, Mr. or Miss Listing Agent, my buyer is through underwriting. They already have conditional loan approval. We only have 3 conditions to close. That's title company info, doing the appraisal, and homeowner's insurance receipt. That's it. When would you like to close? That definitely strengthens our offer. Deposits, you can play with the deposits, right? So the larger the additional deposit, does it strengthen in a small little way? Yeah, of course it does. What if you put in an initial deposit, which is not typical in our area? We don't do initial deposits in North Jersey. What if you did? Does that strengthen your offer? Yeah, it might, right? So it's small different ways you can play with the deposits. Now we're going to touch this last one on the list. I kind of mentioned it before. We're going to discuss it even further. If you were the listing agent on a property and your seller needs to sell in order to buy, and I called you and I said, hey, Mr. or Ms. Listing Agent, I understand your seller needs to sell in order to buy. What if my buyer closed on the property, allowed your seller to stay in the property for 30 days, 45 days, 60 days, put the equity, put the money in their pocket, and then gives them also the ability to which also gives them the ability to purchase without a sale contingency. How does that sound? Do you guys think that that strengthens an offer? If a buyer is willing or flexible to do such a thing, a leaseback, also known as a use of occupancy, yeah, it's a creative way to strengthen an offer, especially when the sellers don't know where they're going, especially when they have to sell in order to buy. It is a very creative way, and it's actually used pretty frequently lately because the number one concern of a seller in many instances in today's market is, I don't know where I'm going. I'm worried that if I sell my house, I'm not going to have any place to go. I'm going to be homeless. This is a very good tool to use to relieve those concerns, right, and strengthen your offer. With anything that we do, I'm just going to kind of put kind of an asterisk here. Make sure everybody's on the same page. That means if you come to agreement that it's as is, or if you come to agreement that you're waiving the appraisal contingency or a lease back or whatever it may be, make sure that everybody's on the same page from the get-go. That includes the attorneys. You know, because what happens is there's an increased likelihood things fall apart in attorney review if everybody's not on the same page, right? All of a sudden, an attorney doesn't want to insert this language in a rider. No, but if you send the executed agreement along with all the terms and everybody's on the same page, it will increase the likelihood you get to where you need to go. All right. Let's. Any questions about comments, thoughts, anything you guys want to say about anything so far? Okay, awesome. Let's keep going. All right, so different ways that we can strengthen our offers. All right, it's a few more. It's very simple stuff. The buyer consultation. Why is the buyer consultation a tool to help us improve conversion in these type of situations, in any situation really? But how does the buyer consultation improve the likelihood whether they get a house or not? What do you guys think? It has to do with the second one, with the preparation one.
Yeah, I'm going to use a seminar I had with you earlier, Ron, and what I believe you said was by knowing the exact details of the buyers, whether they're pre-approved, whether they're in a home that they have to sell or not, the more you know, the faster you can act, depending on what the buyer's qualifications are.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, you're gauging their motivation. You're gauging their readiness in today's market, an A buyer is not just a ready, willing, and able anymore. That's not the definition for today's market. Today's market's definition of an A buyer is ready, willing, able, and will do whatever it takes to obtain. That's an A buyer in today's market. Now, how do we get them to the point where they're an A buyer, that they'll do whatever it takes? We need to prepare them. Buyer consultations are great tools for that. Now, we also need to discuss with them kind of what they're looking for. Of course, we need to discover exactly what they're looking for, right? So in order to discover what they're looking for, we need to ask them questions, to sit down, no distractions. It's an amazing thing when we know exactly what they're looking for. Why? Because now you don't, not that you have a lot of properties to show them, yet you don't need to show them every property. You just need to show them the right ones because you know exactly what they're looking for. You're not going to waste their time by showing them something in a flood zone because they told you, I don't want to be in a flood zone. And you're not going to show them something that needs a lot of work because they told you they don't want a lot of work. So you're going to discover what they're looking for. You're going to discuss the buying process so they know exactly what to expect. You're going to discuss the market conditions so they know what to expect. You may even want to have that discussion about multiple offer situations so they know what to expect. We are setting the expectations with a buyer consultation. We are preparing them, and the better we can prepare them, there's an increased likelihood that we actually obtain in these type of situations, that we actually find them a home, that we actually end up at the result that they're looking for, which is to purchase a home, right? So let's do the consultations. Again, it's one of those things that if you do it, you'll be better than 90% of the agents, right? Preparation is key. We need to prepare them and we need to prepare ourselves, right? You cannot communicate the buying process if you don't know the buying process. You cannot communicate the market conditions if you don't know the market conditions. You cannot be an expert if you didn't do the footwork, right? So again, let's prepare ourselves. Let's prepare them best we can, and let's hit it home. The attorney selection. How is attorney selection going to make or break a deal? It's a small little thing. How does it make or break a deal? Especially in today's market, in this crazy, strong, difficult seller's market.
I would assume time's of the essence, how quickly they work.
Yeah, well, in attorney review, I'll give you an instance. In attorney review, any party can cancel for any reason. What's a good reason that a seller might cancel? And Nabila kind of touched upon it earlier. They get a higher offer. That would be a good reason to cancel on you, wouldn't it? So what if we had an attorney that didn't drag their feet, that didn't wait 2 days to send the initial writer, that didn't wait to respond, that didn't wait to get out of attorney review, that got us out of attorney review swiftly, knows the market conditions, is very responsive, does what it takes in order to safeguard our clients that have already envisioned this home, them living in it, with their stuff in it. Right? Protect them. Get out of attorney review quickly. Attorney selection is really, really important. Obviously, you don't want to be scrambling either. Another example of attorney selection is you have an accepted offer. There was 18 offers on the table, and now the listing agent is waiting for you to send over the attorney information. And what are your buyers doing? No, they want to interview different attorneys, and they're taking too long. What happens? They're going to the next person. You're not serious. All right. It is really, really important to be prepared in today's market conditions. Inspector selection, really, really important. You don't want to hire the alarmist. There's some inspectors that'll say this house is falling down, don't buy it. This deck is about to crash, don't buy it. So we don't want the alarmist, right? You want an inspector that knows how to present things, because everything's in the presentation. So it's really, really important that you make those recommendations up front. Communication, I think one of the most major, things that buyers complain about after the purchase is that maybe their agent didn't communicate with them enough. And it's really, really important to understand they don't do this every day. We do. We may take things for granted and say, okay, well, naturally, we know what happens next. They don't know what happens next. Always tell them what happens next. How do you feel when you don't know what happens next? We're all human beings. How do we feel? We feel anxious. We feel frustrated, disappointed. We set our own expectations. Don't do that. What we want to do is we want to have a higher level of communication. Always tell them, every conversation you have with them, this is what happens next. It's a very simple tip. It'll definitely improve your level of customer service. All right. Any questions, comments, thoughts?
I have a question, Ron.
Sure. Yeah, go ahead.
I've been on a few open houses lately. I'm going on one this weekend, and 2 weeks ago, I had a lot of time. You know, there weren't many people there, but last week there were a lot of people there, and it was really hard to connect. Like these aren't really things like I was thinking about going to, do the CMA for this weekend, which would be great, but I feel like it might be, it's never wasted effort, but like, I don't know, is there any recommendations as to like how to connect with these people on, like, they're like, they want to get in and get out, it seems.
Well, it's madhouses, it's craziness. It's it's like it's difficult to connect at a high level when it's one after the other, in, out, in, out, in, out. So you're going to do the best you can is really the answer to it. So you're going to connect as well as you can. You're going to convert as well as you can. It is a lot more difficult to convert and communicate at a higher level when there's 80 people walking through an open house compared to 8.
Yeah.
Right. So, you have a lot more time to spend with somebody. You can even do a buyer consultation right there on the spot if you had the time. Yet, when it's go because you're trying to get everybody in and out, yeah, of course it's that much more challenging to communicate. So so you have to pick and choose, right? Obviously, if they're represented with an agent, go. You're not represented with you're not represented by anybody, you're independent. You'd spend a little bit more time and energy on them, of course, right?
And then one more question on that, just to follow up on the follow-up. So I've sent out 2 emails to each person that I was assigned to me and that I connected with no response, which is normal, I would assume. Have you had more success with phone calls, or is it obviously case specific, or what do you think?
So you're talking about follow-up right now, and definitely the follow-up, it will improve your conversion if you do certain things, certain words, certain timing. The phone call is the best method to touch,
Right.
because they're on the phone and you can go for the close right there, obtain all the information right there. Yet you can mix up the touch systems on your follow-up. I mean, you want to send a thank you text right after the open house or even before they left the house to make sure the number is good. Yeah, go ahead. You want to share the KW app? That's another touch. You want to call them? Sure. You want to send an intro email? Why not? In that intro email, what are you including? Are you including a buyer's guide? Are you including what an offer looks like? Sure. During the week, how many times are you reaching out to them? How are you reaching out to them? You're sending, some people send videos. I don't send videos, but some people send videos. Some people go connect with them on social media. So there's different ways that you can touch them. If you have their address, you can send them a thank you card. But the phone call is the best touch. Why? Because it always helps obtain the most information and the ability to close at that very moment.
Okay, thank you.
I think it's also, Daniel, I also think it's important to try and get as much information like from them while you're with them. Like as far as if they just give an email, try and ask for a cell phone too. Cause I know from past experience, I kind of built a rapport with a client at the open house and he was like, yeah, this, I want this, da, 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 da. And then he only gave me his email. And, when I followed up with him, not a lot of people are responsive to their email. Not a lot of people even check their email. Some of it goes to spam. So I'd say like the more information with, an address, a phone number, obviously
Yeah,
more an email.
I was heavily armed with that. They exposed all of that. So I'll follow up. Thank you.
Yeah, the more information we can obtain is always helpful to us. Obviously, we want to connect with them. We want to be memorable. Find ways to do that while you have those small windows, those opportunities to do so. So they're going to go to 4 or 5, 6 open houses. They're going to meet other agents. I will share with you that the majority of open house guests are just not ready, willing, and able at that very moment. They really aren't. So you have to follow up with them, and just when you're about to give up on them, that's when they're ready. So you may take a few days, it may take a few weeks, it may even take a few months. They're just not ready at that very point in time. So it does require follow up.
Thank you.
All right. So we spoke about escalation clauses. This is the verbiage that I use. Buyer submitting offer with escalation clause that will have. It doesn't have to be 1,000. It could be 5,000. It's whatever you want it to be. $1,000 increments above any other offer that seller receives up to a maximum amount of Evidence of other competing offer to be presented during attorney review. Usually, usually I don't like using these, me personally, unless it's a crazy situation where you just don't know where it's going to go. So it's seldomly used by me too. On occasion, it has given us the ability to obtain, yet in most cases it does not, because there's other people with escalation clauses that actually go higher, or there's just higher offers that obtain. Again, there's many agents and sellers that don't like these. They're anti-escalation clause, so just ask if it's okay to use an escalation clause before you actually submit an offer. And how you communicate it, you definitely want to communicate it in the email, in the body, that there's an escalation clause. Many agents want us to put it under additional terms, which is number 43 on page 13 of your offers. We're not supposed to do that really, but the listing agents typically want us to put it there. Any questions about that?
Can
I
you
have a
give an
question.
example?
Go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Leslie. Now you go.
Can you just give an example of like an escalation clause?
Yeah, sure. I can see why sellers don't like it for this main reason. Escalation clauses are basically communicating buyers willing to pay up to $620,000, but they'll only pay $600,000 because the next best offer is $599. So that's why sellers don't like it. Yet I'll share my opinion that I still think they're getting top dollar. So that's what an escalation clause is. Now let's go the opposite way. Let's just say your max, where it says up to the maximum amount of, it was 620, but somebody submitted a 630 offer. Well, you're out, right? It was above your max anyway. So it just depends on the scenario. So it's case by case. All right. All right.
What if more than one buyer is using an escalation clause?
Yeah. So whoever
And
has
how
the
would
highest
you-
max, right?
Aren't they competing against each other though? Like
Yeah, but what if they generally won't have the exact same numbers? Or what if they have different maxes? Even if they had the same numbers, you're still going to select only one offer. So which one's the
Right.
strongest overall offer? We're always going to choose the strongest offer if you're a seller or a listing agent.
Okay.
So it's whoever the strongest offer is overall. I'll give you another example. Are you the strongest offer if you put an escalation clause and you went up to 605 and you're putting 20% down? If you're competing with a cash offer at 600, no, you're not the strongest offer. You're the highest offer, but you're not the strongest offer. I'm going with cash. So it doesn't always, benefit you to put escalation clauses in there. So just kind of know what you're walking into, and then
And cash is always the strongest offer. I mean, aren't there sellers that don't want to deal with cash?
No, it's strong. It's not always the strongest offer. It just depends what the numbers are like. If I told you I have a 550 cash offer up against a 600,000 with 10% down, the 600,000 is a stronger offer because it's just too much of a gap. It's too much money to be leaving on the table. If they're waiving the appraisal contingency, if they're waiving the mortgage, there's ways to strengthen offers. So cash is not always king. If it's $5,000 difference, I'm going with the cash, especially if you think that there's an appraisal issue.
Okay.
Right? So let's just say, what happens if we lose? What happens if we don't get the house? It happens pretty often, right? You have to submit 5 offers, 10 offers to get one accepted offer. It happens. But we don't want to get caught up. We're always going to give it, our best shot. And many times what happens is, your client went to their max. They couldn't go higher even if they wanted to, and somebody else did. And they already went 30,000 above asking, and they're not willing to do more, but somebody else did. And sometimes we approach them and they say, "Hey, listen, there's 28 offers on this house," and they're like, "This is too crazy. I'm going next." We don't have control over everything, right? We are going to advise them best we can. We're going to communicate as much information best we can. We're not going to get caught up in this whole bidding war competition. We're going to put our best foot forward. We're going to get in the backup position. Why do we get in the backup position? It happens frequently that something goes sideways, especially when it's crazy, and they go to the backup offer. Get yourselves in the backup position. Tell the agents, "I want to be a backup. Let me know if it goes sideways." You stay positive. You keep it positive. You create the vision, if you need to, in your client's head, because they're disappointed. They're frustrated. We don't want them to be that way. "Hey, you know what, Mr. and Mrs. Buyer, I know we gave it a really good shot and we still weren't able to obtain, yet I do know for a fact with 100% certainty that we are going to find you a home that you're going to enjoy for many years to come, and I'm going to make that happen. How does that sound?" we're going to create that vision in their head. Stay positive. And you know what? Whether you know it or not, it makes you a better agent, and you're more prepared for the next one, and it makes them a better buyer, and they are more prepared for the next one. It makes sense, right? The experiences that we have make us better, and that's exactly what's going on. So the more they go through it, the easier it gets, even for us as agents. Them as buyers, they're going to be easier to communicate with, to deal with in these type of situations. So next time they're going to come in stronger and cleaner. They're going to know that they need to have a strong offer, that they need to compete and do whatever it takes in order to win. This is the type of market that we play to win, or you go home empty-handed, right? We're going to be flexible to seller needs, and yes, it will. All this will help us improve our conversion for the next one. All right. So I'm about to wrap up. I'm going to just allow you guys to share any last thoughts, comments. What you guys got? No, nothing for me. I covered everything. Well, just in case you forgot to ask me a question, as you all know, reach out to me anytime. I always answer the phone. I will answer your questions gladly. So I want to thank everybody for joining me today. Your participation was great. I trust you got value out of today, and I will see you next week, Thursday. I forget the topic, but I will be here.
Thank
All right,
you.
guys.
Thank you.
Thanks again, Ron. See ya.
Take care, guys.